Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. And I always remember a story that happened to me when I was giving a khutbah. I was in Doha, and the brother, may Allah bless him, who was in charge of the microphone, or this is like the brother downstairs in the masjid. I was about halfway through the khutbah, and then he comes into the masjid, and he had that look on his face, like I messed up, So I was like, as I'm giving the khutbah, I'm watching him come, because he has to go, it's in the front of the masjid, so he's coming to the people. I'm like, don't tell me this brother forgot to turn the microphone on. And I've been giving the khutbah for the last 12 minutes without a microphone. Because the masjid is like 2,500 people. It's a big masjid, People pray outside, they pray downstairs. So I said, Masakin, they're not hearing anything I've been saying. The people inside the masjid, mashallah, go, oh, my voice, mashallah, guess Allah barak. They could hear what I was saying. But no one in the masjid said anything, 12 minutes they're just watching, subhanAllah. Then I'm like, he turned on the microphone. So every time we start without the microphone, we always remember the story, subhanAllah. You can't hear there? Inside you can't hear, huh? Should I scream louder or? You may hear, inshallah. Where's the brother? Tanweer. We're having some technical difficulties, bro. The sisters can't hear. Unless they fixed it, they were telling me yesterday that in this room it's not working. It's fixed, huh? Okay, so, yeah, okay, I see the speaker system, mashallah. That's the problem with technology, man. It's so beneficial, but it's so annoying when it doesn't work, huh? Don't need to buy. The speaker's not working there. You're going to do it? Okay. Bismillah. So the brothers and sisters who are live with us on Facebook, inshallah, you'll have to bear with us. We're experiencing technical difficulties. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. So we're now late with the traffic jam, and now with the microphone, alhamdulillah. And the traffic was just sitting there. I don't know if the driver didn't know another way. We were just, literally just wasn't moving. Allah Akbar. Wasn't meant to be, I guess, huh? It's from here where they're supposed to be hearing? Yeah. Or maybe it needs to come closer then. They can hear now, it's all right? You sure? You want to bring it a bit closer in the front, it's fine. It's okay. Doesn't look as cool, but hey. It's all right. Like this, bismillah. Okay. Shall we? We'll start over again with bismillah again, inshallah. From the beginning, huh? The fourth bismillah, huh? Bismillah. We reached, alhamdulillah, in the last session to verse number 60. And from verse 60 to 82, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to tell us the story of Musa and Khidr, alayhima as-salam. And this story was narrated by, or told by our beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the hadith, which is narrated in Sahih al-Bukhari. The hadith of Ubay bin Ka'b, narrated by Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhuma, that he told the story alayhi salatu wasalam that Musa stood up, and this is like an introduction, it tells you why the story took place. And he said alayhi salatu wasalam that once Musa stood up addressing the people of Bani Israel, and he was asked, who is the most learned man amongst the people? And he said alayhi salam, I am the most learned, I am the most knowledgeable. So Allah admonished him because he did not attribute the absolute knowledge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to him that at the junction of the two seas there is a slave amongst my slaves who is more knowledgeable than you. This is surprising for Musa, who thought he had reached the highest level of knowledge and there was no one more knowledgeable than him, to hear this. But it shows us the tawadu', how he was simple, how he was humble, alayhi salam. He immediately said, oh my Lord, how can I meet him? There's someone who I can benefit from, someone I can learn from. How can I meet him? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to take a fish in a large basket and to proceed. And you will find him in the place where you lose the fish. And that's also an important part of the story. When you come to the ayat to understand that, the issue of losing the fish. When the fish goes into the sea, and when you know the hadith, that's the importance of gathering, as we mentioned before, from all of the text. So you understand the story in its entirety. So Musa said along with his servant boy, Yusha ibn Nun, who later became a prophet of Bani Israel himself, and he carried the fish in the large basket until they reached a rock, where they laid their heads down and they went to sleep. They rested as they started out on their journey. The fish came out of the basket and took its way into the sea and making a tunnel, as Allah is going to describe for us in the ayat. And it was an amazing experience, obviously, to see that, because usually what happens when the fish goes into the sea, what happens, the water goes by and it closes. But here it's open and it's going. You can still see the way that the fish is making into the sea in a tunnel-like form. After they had rested, they got up and they went on their way. After they went, and it was said that they went throughout the night until the next day. And so Musa told him, bring us ghada'ana, bringing us our early morning meal. And then he remembered that even though it was so amazing what happened, that when the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is meant for something to happen, it happens, subhanAllah. Just like now, when we came, I left the hotel on time. The last 2 nights we've been here on time. But it was the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us to start late, so the traffic didn't move, subhanAllah. That's about it. And then when you know this and you have this iman as a believer, you relax. It's not meant. I'm never late for my lectures, but it wasn't meant for me to be on time today, subhanAllah. That's why the traffic didn't move, subhanAllah. So also, if he remembered, as you're going to see in the story, because this is one of the signs Musa was waiting for. So if he had known that, khalas, there'd be no problem now. They would have went right from there when he knew that he had lost the fish there. But so the qadr of Allah would happen. Yusha, he forgot to tell him, and they continued on their travel. They continued traveling, subhanAllah. But when it came time to eat the next day, he said, I forgot to tell you that the fish had jumped out of the bucket and went back into the sea. And Musa said, that's what we were waiting for. That's the sign that Allah had told me. So they started to go back. They tracked their tracks until they reached the place where they were going to meet, until they found Khidr, who was covered in his own garments. He had covered himself in his garments. He gave him his greetings, and he said, I am Musa. And he replied to him, Al-Khidr, he said, Musa of Bani Israel. And he said, yes, this is me. And then he asked him, and look at the adab, the manners of the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, may I follow you, so you can teach me the knowledge which I have not been taught. I want to learn from you. I want to be your student. And Al-Khidr replied to him that verily you're not able to remain patient. I have some knowledge from Allah which you do not have. Therefore, you're not going to be able to be patient. That's going to come in the ayat as well. And then Musa said, Allah willing, I will be patient and I will not disobey your orders. So both of them start to walk along the shore, and then obviously it's going to come, inshallah, now in the ayat, what happened after that. So this is, the hadith continues, but just for time's sake, we'll go straight into the ayat to talk about what happens in the story after that, inshallah ta'ala. وإذ قال موسى لفتاه لا أبرح حتى أبلغ مجمع البحرين. And mention when Musa said to his servant, now we go back to the hadith, who was the servant? We said Yusha ibn Nun alayhi salam. And this obviously, as one of the things that the people mention, is that it's important for the people of status and the people, the scholars, that they have with them helpers who help them. Because when you have people who can help you, what does it do for him? What is the objective? Because it's somebody who benefits from the dunya. It helps you save time. The Prophet ﷺ, he had with him servants. ﷺ. Anas ibn Malik, the famous Sahabi, who's one of the famous narrators of the hadith, he was the servant of the Prophet ﷺ. So that's even now, sometimes we travel, we see some people say the Sheikh wants to bring a companion with him. He wants to bring his wife with him. You're going to do the things to help him that they're going to do? No, you're not. So alhamdulillah, if someone's helping him, it's saving him time, helping him focus on the job he has at hand, or even in the city where he is, that helps him out to make sure that he doesn't have to do things and waste time on these type of things. So that's the benefit of having someone to assist you, an assistant. It's very, very important that we focus on that. We learn this principle from this ayah as well, and from the sunnah of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, I will not cease traveling, لا أبرح, until I reach the junction of the two seas, حتى أبلغ مجمع البحرين أو أمضي حقبة, or I continue for a long time. And this teaches us the way, as we even saw in the early Muslims, how they were, even until today, some, alhamdulillah, which they say, الرحلة في طلب العلم, is traveling to seek knowledge, that you make the effort. And you benefit from this even in the cities that we live in. How many English halaqas do we have weekly that we should be benefiting from? How many times do we have, visiting scholars, students of knowledge, dua to come from outside of into Kuwait? And shouldn't we at least make the effort to come and sit and benefit from them? And I applaud all of you. May Allah bless all of you who have taken all of this time, these 3 straight days. It's very tiring, very difficult. But this is the way of the student of knowledge, that if you want to, as Imam Yahya ibn Abi Kathir, he mentioned that, you cannot reach knowledge while your body relaxes. You have to go through some tab. It's going to be difficult. So this is the one who wants to travel and seek knowledge, wants to gain knowledge. This is what you have to go through. This is one of the main lessons that we're learning from Surat Al Kahf as well. When you want to gain knowledge, you have to strive, and you're going to face difficulty. It's going to be tiring. But in the end, once you reach it, you're going to obtain it, inshallah ta'ala, and you're going to find the pleasure and the beauty of knowledge. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the next verse, فَلَمَّا بَلَغَا مَجْمَعْ بَيْنِهِمَا نَسِيَا حُوتُهُمَا. But when they reached the junction between them, they forgot their fish. فَاتَّخَذَ سَبِيلَهُ فِي الْبَحْرِ سَرَبًا. So they went out into the sea, slipping away. As we mentioned in the hadith, like making in a way, subhanAllah, amazing way, making tunnels and leaving traces. That's not a normal way. فَلَمَّا جَاوَزَا قَالَ لِفَتَاهُ. خلاص, they left the place they were at. We mentioned from the hadith, they slept on the rock, they were resting, but then they got up and they left that. قَالَ لِفَتَاهُ. He said to his servant boy, آتِنَا غَدَاءَنَا. Bring us our early morning meal. لَقَدْ لَقِينَا مِنْ سَفَرِنَا هَذَا نَصَبًا. That we have found from our safar, from our travel, nasaba, much fatigue. It's been very tiring. We've been going almost non-stop, just rested a bit, because he's trying to get to his objective. And that once again shows us the ta'ab. You're going to become tired, and it's going to be difficult when you want to learn. And this is like this any way in life. You'll find that anyone who wants to reach success, that they're going to be willing to leave certain things. And a lot of times what you have to leave to gain success is sleeping. And I recall, subhanAllah, with that, a story, and I sometimes mention people who might not be role models, people who might even sometimes be people who are not good people. But subhanAllah, you can benefit from their stories and how they're willing to sacrifice sometimes even for batil. And I remember one person who was he's an actor and a famous singer. I'm not going to mention his name, inshallah. But nonetheless, this individual, and look at the story. He was filming during the morning, and he was doing the music during the night. He was doing the soundtrack for the movie. He was doing it during the nighttime. So they asked him, they said, if you're working and filming in the morning, and you're in the nighttime, you're recording the music, when do you sleep? He said, sleep. He said, sleep is for broke people. Sleep is for broke people. If you want to strive, you want to be successful, you have to leave sleep. Even Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was the Mr. Olympia for 7 straight years, the best ever in bodybuilding. Bodybuilding, you have to sleep many hours for your body to recover. He would only sleep 6 hours, which is like unheard of in bodybuilding. You have to at least sleep 8 hours as a bodybuilder, if not more. He would sleep less, and because he had so many other objectives in life that he wanted to accomplish. They said, well, how can you sleep that? He said, you have to sleep faster, he said. You sleep less if you want to be successful. So here, they continue to travel because now he wants to gain this knowledge. He's surprised. So there's someone who's more knowledgeable than me. How can I find him? How can I get to him? So they're continuing. But then now, it's a bit tiring. So now we need to have some food in order to what? In order to get some energy back to continue on our way. Then, when he remembered the food, he said, and here the scholar said actually was the fish part of the food. No, the fish was one of the signs. So the fish itself, and even though some mention it was from their food, but the other ones said it wasn't. And it's clear that inshallah ta'ala, that it wasn't from their food. Maybe they had other fish with it. Maybe they had something else with it. Allahu alam, what they were eating. But the fish was for the sign. When they lose the fish, that's when they're going to what? That's when they're going to know the sign. So he remembered, because the fish is part of the food, part of the package he's carrying with him, part of the supplies. He said, قَالَ أَرَأَيْتَ إِذْ أَوَيْنَا إِلَى الصَّخْرَةِ. He said, do you remember when we were tired, we were relaxing at that rock, we were resting at that time? He said, فَإِنِّي نَسِيتُ الْحُوتِ. He said, I forgot. And he meaning what happened to the fish. I forgot the fish, meaning the story of the fish, that it went back. And what they said, that the fish was actually dead in the bucket. It wasn't alive. But so it had some sprinkles from the water, and that's also from the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that it came back to life it jumped out of the bucket and then went into the sea in that amazing way that Allah described and as was described in the hadith. He said, "Nasitu al-hut, I forgot the fish. وَمَا أَنْسَانِيهُ إِلَّا الشَّيْطَانُ أَنْ أَذْكُرَ." And he said, nothing made me forget it except shaitan. وَاتَّخَذَ سَبِيلُهُ فِي الْبَحْرِ عَجَبًا. And he said that it took its way into the sea, and of course it was absolutely amazing. So here he's going to explain to him, not just the story of it jumping, but how amazing it went to the sea and what happened. But like we said, the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though it was an amazing event, it was meant for them to go all of that way extra. And that's why he forgot, subhanAllah. And this is a very important principle that we understand in life. That all these things happen for a reason. Maybe it's for you to be tested. Maybe it's for this, maybe for that. Allahu A'lam, what is the wisdom behind it? But all of these things happen for a reason. It's from the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why we should be trained as Muslims. When something like this happens, is it a good thing? Imagine now. And this happens a lot of times, by the way. Let's say, for example, we're going to go on a desert trip to Jahra, very far. Jahra is next to the Iraqi border, correct? My geography is not the best, isn't it? That's correct, huh? Okay, that's what I remember from back in the day. That's the distance. I remember when I visited, they said there's the border over there. I was just making sure I don't mess up with my geography. So let's say we're going to go from here to Jahra to the last part of the border. There's a nice big tent there with the family. And how long is it going to take us to get there if there's no traffic? Not like the traffic tonight. How long will it take to get there? To get to Jahra in 15 minutes. What are you driving, a plane? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. One brother said, what, an hour or more? Then you're going to go in the desert a bit and this. So how long does it take? Maybe about an hour and a half, let's say? Let's say an hour and a half. An hour and a half to get there. So it took us an hour and a half to get there. And the supplies that your wife was supposed to bring, she forgot them at home. What's your reaction going to be? The stuff to cook and all this. Or she brought all this stuff and she forgot the meat. She said the meat, I left it in the fridge, I want to leave it until the end. I was afraid the cat would eat it if we took it out, so I put it in and I forgot. What's your reply going to be? Or maybe you sat in the traffic we sat in tonight, so it took you 3 hours to get there. What's your reply going to be? Look at the story of Musa. What did Musa say? And imagine they walked all that way, all through the night. And if he had told him the story right then, it would have been solved. This is the place we're supposed to be. But now, they have to backtrack. They have to go all the way back. They have to follow their footsteps and make sure they get back to the same place because that's where they lost it. What did Musa say to him? Was he upset? Did he raise his voice? Did he say it like a lot of us would say, beep, beep, beep? Huh? Of course not. This is why we study these stories. This is why we study the stories of the Quran. This is why we study the stories of the Prophet. So we can try our best to follow them. So remember this next time. If something like this happens, what did Musa say? قَالَ ذَلِكَ مَا كُنَّا نَبْغِي. This is what we were looking for. This is what we were seeking. This is the sign that Allah told me about. So here, he didn't get upset. Like Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu said, he said, I never heard from the Prophet of even the smallest amount of displeasure. He said, I served him for 10 years. Not even one time I heard from Allah Akbar. So this is what we're looking for. What's important now, once again, my objective is for me to meet this man who's more knowledgeable for me to learn. Me to get upset with you and start to scold you, start to ridicule you, it's not going to help us. The thing is now we have to get back where we were. Huh? So this is what he did. They start to what? They start to what? Track their way back. And that's why Allah said, فَارْتَدَّ عَلَى آثَارِهِمَا قَصَصًا. So they returned following their footprints, making sure they went back in the same way, looking at the things you would see on the way. Okay, yeah, we passed that. Or no, it's over here. Because the footsteps, hopefully most of them are there. That's why I say most likely they're going through a desert area or something where the footprints were still there, where they could see their footprints. Once they reached back where they had left the fish, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَوَجِدَا عَبْدًا مِنْ عِبَادِنَا. They found a servant from amongst our servants. آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِنْ عِنْدِنَا. That we gave him rahmah, mercy from us. وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِنْ لَدُنَّا عِلْمًا. And we taught him from us a certain knowledge. Here, the question always comes, Who is this abd we're talking about? Al-Khidr, as it came in the hadith very clearly. So Al-Khidr, was he a prophet or was he from the Salihin, from the pious servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If you look into the ayah, the first part of the ayah, abdan, and you might believe that a servant from my servants, that maybe he was just from the Salihin. Even though the Prophet ﷺ used to call himself the same thing, and as we know in the beginning of the ayah as well, called him an abd, so you could say that as well. Many understood though that he is just from the Salihin. But when you look at the other the type of rahmah that was given to him, type of knowledge, that's usually those type of things are given from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to that high level of it, are usually only given to prophets. And if you look into the story later, when he said, this is what Allah taught me, and the things that he did, these are not things that someone who doesn't have, hadn't reached the level of prophethood would have done. And Allah knows best. So it seems that Allah, the stronger opinion is that he was a prophet. Obviously, as some of the scholars differ between a Rasul and a Nabi, meaning a Rasul was sent with the da'wah to a different nation, and a Nabi was just when it was sent with a message of a prophet before him, and it could have been from that. Allah knows best. So some of them mention he was a Nabi and not a Rasul, and Allah knows best, but definitely he was a Nabi, or most likely, it seems the more authentic view is that he was a Nabi, inshallah ta'ala. But there is a difference, so you understand that. So when they found him, Musa said to him, قال له موسى, Musa said to him, هل أتبعك? May I follow you? And look here, subhanallah, at the adab, the manners. Who are we talking about? Musa, Kalim Allah. Allah spoke to him directly. From Ulul Azm, from the top 5 of the prophets, alayhi salam. Mentioned more times than any of the other prophets in the Quran, and a very high status, subhanAllah. And here he comes to this man who Allah sent him to, and he says to him, هل أتبعك? May I follow you? على أن تعلمني, and that you may teach me مما علمت رشدا, from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught you, from the sound judgment, the rushd, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught you, from all of the good, all of the things, the knowledge that you have that I don't have. Because what he's coming to get from him is what? A specific knowledge. Because he's knowledgeable, more knowledgeable than Musa in something, in some aspect. He still doesn't know what it is. But that's what he wants, is that rushd, that thing that he has that I don't have. This is what I've come to learn. Because Musa has reached a very high level of knowledge. So he's looking for that specific knowledge that he has that he doesn't. What was the reply of Khidr? He said, قَالَ إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. He said, indeed, you will never be able to have patience. And then right away he explained it to him, and that's a bit heavy. It's a bit rough, the reply, right? And he's talking about Musa, alayhi salam, he's not talking to anyone, but he explained to him right away. وكيف تصبر على ما لم تحط به خبرا. He said, and how can you have patience for that which you do not encompass in knowledge? And that's what you don't understand, because the knowledge he has is a different type of knowledge. So the things you're going to see, if you're going to be with me, you're not going to be able to comprehend them. It's going to be too deep, too much for you. And he has his own sharia, Musa. So he has his own laws. So here, the laws are going to be different. What he has is different from what Musa has. So he's saying that, how can you be? I mean, even if you want to be patient, you're not going to be able to, because you can't, because you cannot encompass this knowledge that I have. What did Musa reply? He came all this way. He wants to learn this knowledge. He's serious about learning, alayhi salam. He said, قَالَ سَتَجِدُنِي إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهِ, that you will find me, inshallah, صَابِرًا, patient. وَلَا أَعْصِي لَكَ أَمْرًا, and I will not disobey you in any order, anything. I'm just going to follow you, I'm going to learn. I'm not going to say anything. Never disobey you, and I'm going to be patient. Don't worry. So Khidr replied to him, قَالَ فَإِنْ اتَّبَعْتَنِي, that if you are going to follow me, now he's going to put a condition. There's a shart. And we know from the teachings of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he said, الْمُسْلِمُونَ عَلَى شُرُوطِهِمْ, that the Muslims must fulfill their commitments. If you have a condition, you must fulfill it as a Muslim. It's part of being a Muslim. He said, if you're going to follow me, there's a condition. The condition is, فَلَا تَسْأَلْنِي عَنْ شَيْءٍ. Don't ask me عن شيء about anything. Nothing. Not one word. Don't say anything. حَتَّى أُحْدِثَ لَكَ مِنْهُ ذِكْرًا. Until I mention it to you. Until I explain to you why. Until I explain to you why I did this and why this happened. But this is the condition. Not one word. So, عن شيء. Nothing. Don't ask. Observe. Listen. And this is the power of listening, by the way. And learning. And the most powerful is just to listen and to learn. So he said, but then in the end, don't worry. He's letting him know. Because it's going to be difficult for you, Musa. In the end, he said, حَتَّى أُحْدِثَ لَكَ مِنْهُ ذِكْرًا. Until I tell you about it. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why everything happened. But you just have to have what? Sabr. Alhamdulillah, the agreement, they reached the agreement. So what happened? فَانْطَلَقَا. So they set out on their journey. حَتَّى إِذَا رَكِبَ فِي السَّفِينَةِ خَرَقَهَا. Until they embarked in the ship. And Al-Khidr, he what? Went to sink the ship. He messed up the ship. He tore a hole in the ship. As it came in the hadith, in the example, he said they're walking along the shore, and then the people, they saw them walking, they waved, and they stopped to pick them up. And they recognized Al-Khidr. They didn't know Musa, but they knew Al-Khidr. So they said they got him in when they didn't charge them any fare. So Musa said, mashallah, and alhamdulillah, now they've blessed us, they've taken us for free, and they haven't charged us. And now, right away, after they get in, he goes to the corner when they're not looking and pulls up one of the planks and messes up the ship, so the water starts to come in. So now, and you can imagine, first of all, something that's not permissible in the Sharia of Musa, obviously. It's not permissible. It's something that's haram to harm someone's property. And on top of that, they took you for free. They stopped and came out of their way to the shore, let us get on for free, and now you're messing up their property? Musa was shocked. He said, قَالَ أَخَرَقْتَهَا لِتُقْرِقَ أَهْلَهَا. He said, have you torn it open to drown its people? That's what's going to happen in the end. If they can't, you breast it up, it's going to be messed up, and they can drown. And he said, لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا إِمْرًا. You have come with something that's a grave thing. Don't forget, who is Musa? He's a prophet from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of his main jobs is what? Al-amr bil-ma'ruf wa-nahy anil-munkar. To what? To call to that which is good and forbid that which is evil. So right away, it's second nature to him. Also, he's a leader. And that's why they always say in any company, there can never be two CEOs. Because even if a CEO comes now, and he says that he's going to help out a company, what's going to happen? You can't be patient. Because if someone else is running the show and you step in, it's going to, even if you, in the beginning he's going to try to be like this. But naturally as a leader, he's going to step in. He's going to, because that's what leaders do. So he immediately stepped in to forbid the evil and to advise him, what is this? You're going to harm the people, you can kill the people. Right away, what was the response? قَالَ أَلَمْ أَقُلْ. He said, didn't I say to you, إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. Didn't I tell you that you would never be able to be patient? Now I've proved my point. From the first incident, you've already said something. What did Musa say to him in reply? He said, قَالَ لَا تُؤَخِذْنِي بِمَا نَسِيتْ. He said, do not blame me for what I forgot. وَلَا تُرْهِقْنِي مِنْ أَمْرِي عُسْرًا. And don't make it difficult, and don't cover me with difficulty. The usra, don't make it difficult for me. Why? Because I have an excuse. My excuse is what? Naseet, I forgot. It's a valid excuse, right? And I didn't mean to do it, I promise you. But right away, my nature of calling to good, forbidding evil, it stepped in. So I forbid what I saw. So he accepted his excuse. He accepted his udhr, which is that he forgot. فانطلقا. They continue now in their journey. حتى إذا لقي غلاما. Until they met a boy. فقتله. So Al-Khidr killed him. And the fa here shows us that there were some events that happened before that. What were they? Allahu A'lam. Apparently, clearly it's not that important for us to know exactly what happened before that. Otherwise it would have been mentioned in more detail. So he killed him. It was mentioned that when they came across this young ghulam, and the ghulam is usually as we mentioned the other day, is usually what? The one who was before bulugh, before puberty, and a young boy. And they said he was very handsome. He was the most handsome amongst the boys of the place where they were. And then they took him out, they took him to the side and killed him. How did he kill them? The scholars mentioned different things, with a knife. Was it, that he twisted his neck, hit his head against the wall? Allahu A'lam how exactly it happened. And even in the hadith that he took his head. So exactly how he did it, Allahu A'lam, but he killed him. Right away, what happened to Musa again? And this is now something even, it's not we're talking about ripping a plank up, we're talking about taking a head off now. It's a much higher level, it's a serious thing now. And so once again, it's going to automatically go into inkar mode, go into what? For forbidding the evil mode. He's shocked. He said, أَقَتَلْتَ نَفْسًا سَكِيَّةً بِغَيْرِ نَفْسٍ. He said, have you killed a pure soul for other than having killed a soul? Because the only right for you to kill someone is what? If someone has killed someone else, then he gets killed in return. Or different scenarios, but generally speaking, you're not allowed to kill an innocent person, right? If someone's trying to kill you, something, there has to be a reason behind it. But just out of the blue, you take someone aside, boom, and take him out. And this is something, it's a shock. And here he said to him, لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا نُكْرًا. You've come now with something nukra. And the first one he said imra, which is something here, but this is something deplorable, something even worse. The highest level, one of the most major sins that you can commit after shirk is killing an innocent person, subhanAllah. So you've came with this major sin. Right away, what is the answer again from Al-Khidr? قَالَ أَلَمْ أَقُلْ لَكَ إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. He said, didn't I tell you that you will never be able to be patient with me? And here, there was something added to this verse. Who paid attention to it? لَكَ. In the first one, قَالَ أَلَمْ أَقُلْ إِنَّكَ. Here he added لَكَ to it. To show him that now here, to put more emphasis on it, that now you have no excuse. There's no udhr. We had an agreement in the beginning. You messed up when you forgot. I let it slide, but now here there's no more excuse. Khalas, you don't have an excuse. There's no valid excuse for you to say, I forgot again. You agreed to come with me, you agreed to see what I'm doing, you see my job, and to learn from me. And the agreement was, not a word. Here Musa replied to him, قال إنسان. He wants to, now khalas, he realized him 2 times, because he told him before, khalas, I realized I made a mistake and it won't happen again. But now it's happened again. But he still wants to learn. He wants to make sure that he can learn from him. Even, subhanAllah, it shows you the level that he wants to learn. Because now he harmed the ship. He killed what he seemed to see to be an innocent boy. And this is something, but he still wants to learn from him. Why? Because Allah told him that he has knowledge. He wants to, any way possible, wants to obtain that knowledge, subhanAllah. So he said, alayhi salam, قال إن سألتك عن شيء بعدها. He said, if I ask you about anything after this, فلا تصاحبني, then do not keep me as your companion. قد بلغت من لدني عذرا. He said, you have obtained from me an excuse. خلاص, I can't make any more excuses after this. خلاص. As we say in the example we have in English, I don't know if you guys have it in other languages as well. 3 strikes and you're out. Huh? It's a baseball terminology. You guys don't have it in cricket, do you? Huh? I don't know. It's a bit different. Huh? So they say 3 strikes and you're out. And 3 chances, that's it. خلاص. 3 strikes and you're out. So here, the same principle applies. So if there's a 3rd strike, خلاص, then we won't. I won't be your student anymore. I won't follow you. I won't be with you. So alhamdulillah, Al-Khidr gave him another chance. فَانْطَلَقَا. So they continued what? In their journey. حَتَّى إِذَا أَتِيَا أَهْلَ قَرْيَةٍ. And here's something important, reminded me when I looked at the verb. The verb that Allah is using here, what is it? أَتِيَا فَانْطَلَقَا. What do we call this in Nahu, in Arabic grammar? Muthanna. Meaning for what? 2. Because we have mufrad for the singular in Arabic. We have muthanna, which is for 2. And we have the jam', which is the plural. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using just the muthanna for the 2. What about Yusha? Was he with him on the trip or not? It's not mentioned. From the verb, it seems it's just him and Musa. But some scholars said that he continued to be with them. And some said, no, he stayed in the point where they met and they went. And later, Musa met up with him. And Allah knows the best. It wasn't mentioned. But I mean, that's something that was mentioned by the scholars of Tafseer to try to see, was he with them or not. He said, until they came to Atiya Ahla Qarya, until they came to the people of a town. What was the name of the town? The scholars looked into it, mentioned different possibilities, but there's no clear evidence to what it was. And many possibilities of what the town was, but it wasn't mentioned in any of the authentic text. So what's important, it was a qarya, it was a village, it was a town, not really important which village it was. And that's one of the principles that Surat Al Kahf is teaching us, by the way. Each time the people of the Kahf give information that you need. The story of Musa and Khidr giving information that you need. It's not going into the details that you don't need, because a qarya, that's what you need to know. I mean, which one it was, because in the end, the Quran, it's not a book of history. It's not a history book where it's going to say, and it was in this village, which falls on this part, and we get into a geography class as well. That's not the objective of the tafsir. The objective is the issue of the tarbiyah, of the tazkiyah, of the hidayah. This is what the objective of the Quran is. And that's why you'll find some scholars of tafsir, when they're specialized in something in particular, you'll find that they focus on it a lot. So if someone is specialized in fiqh, Bismillah, if he comes, and even though there's like we mentioned before, like 500 verses, they're about ahkam, only in the Quran. But if he comes with those verses, Bismillah, mashallah, the Hanafis and the Malikis and the Shafis and the Hanbalis, and he goes into detail and it's pages, because that's his field. So when he comes to that issue, he's going to go. And if you find someone who's in Nahu and Arabic grammar, Bismillah, sometimes pages, paragraphs on something very small in the Arabic grammar, because that's where he, his speciality and where he feels comfortable. But that can be beneficial to have different types of tafsir like that, but it's not obviously the main objective of the tafsir, which is the hidayah, the tarbiyah, and those things that we're learning from the tafsir. When they reach this village, obviously what do they need? They need to rest, they need to have some food, and it was from the custom of those times, and even some places even today, when you go to certain villages, that the people take care of their guests. And this is from Iman, as the Prophet ﷺ told us, that whoever believes in Allah on the last day, فَلْيُكْرِمْ ضَيْفَهُ, that he needs to take care of his and be hospitable towards his guest. So when they entered into the village, إِسْتَطْعَمَا أَهْلَهَا, they asked the people of the village for food, to feed them, as it was the custom of that time. فَأَبَوْا, they rejected, أَيْ يُضَيِّفُهُمَا, they refused to offer them any type of hospitality. It's not happening. This village they went to were people that were bakhil, stingy. People coming from traveling outside, even though it's the custom, they still rejected to give them anything. So as they're in the village, فَوَجَدَ فِيهَا جِدَارٌ, they found a wall. يُرِيدُ أَن يَنْقَضَّ, it's about to collapse, the wall. So what did Khidr do? فَأَقَامَ, so he restored it. How did he restore it? How did he build it? Didn't go into the details once again, but apparently he did it in a very nice way. He did just push it up. Even someone said the law gave him like extra power for him to push it up, or he built it back up like as a mason would do, and a bricklayer built it up properly. Allahu A'lam. But apparently he did a good job. Why? Because what was the reply to Musa after this? Because Musa's upset now because of the people have gone against the custom. They're hungry, they're tired. They should have some hospitality, but they didn't give it to him. And he said, after this, you see a problem that they have. This wall's about to fall. They could have fixed it themselves, but they're not just bakhil, they're not just stingy, but they're lazy. Even the wall that's about to fall, they're not even fixing it. And here you're going to fix it for free. So Musa said to him, because don't forget, there's an agreement. He has 2 strikes. But once again, it's difficult for him not to speak out about something, right? So he said to him, here it wasn't too harsh, wasn't too this, but he said to him, قال, Musa said to him, لو شئت لاتخذت عليه أجرا. He said, if you wish, you could have taken for it a payment. Here, it's different. He came very hard, very hard in the first 2 times. Now he said that, look, I'm just saying, like we say, I'm just saying. It's up to you, but just putting that out there for you that you could have got paid for it. Because we don't have any money, and if we got some money, then we could have got some food. So I'm just saying, since you put all that hard work in, you could at least got paid for it. So what was the response of Khidr? He said to him, alayhi salam, قال هذا فراق بيني وبينك. He said, this is the parting between me and you. Khalas, it's over. 3 strikes and you're out. Khalas. I gave you too many chances. But, alhamdulillah, from the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said to him, سأنبئك بتأويل ما لم تستطع, inform you about the interpretation about what you could not have patience. Because but as the Prophet ﷺ said, and you go back to the hadith, he said, if Musa were just patient, he said, we could have learned more from the knowledge of Khidr from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, but I'm going to show you why I did these things. You didn't have patience, but if you were patient, you would have learned a lot more. But at least I'm going to give you the basics to understand why I did it. I'm not just going to let you go, be like, what happened here, the boat and killing the kid. That'd be tough to go back and to have to think about that. What really happened? So alhamdulillah, from the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at least he's going to show him the hikmah and why he did this. He said, amma safina. So how many incidents do we have? 3 incidents. Amma safinatu fakanat li masakin. The safina, the ship, it belonged to masakin, poor people. Ya'maluna fil bahr, that they used to work on the sea, fishing, maybe transporting goods, maybe transporting as transportation for people. Allahu alam. They're making their money and their livelihood on this boat. فَأَرَدْتُ أَنْ أَعِيبَهَا. So I wanted to, and pay attention to the grammar here once again, to how he speaks. He said, I wanted to what? To cause a defect. أُعِيبَهَا. أَعِيبَهَا, and I cause a defect in it. Why? Why would you want to cause it? They're masakin. They have no money. This is their livelihood, but yet you still want to mess up their ship. Then he explained to him why. وَكَانَ وَرَاءَهُمْ مَلِكٌ. Because behind them was a malik, was a king. يَأْخُذُ كُلَّ سَفِينَةٍ غَصْبًا. He takes every safina, every boat, he takes it غَصْبًا, meaning what? By force. So if he goes and he expects, they come and he has this taftish, or they come and they stop you, the checkpoint, and they look at what you have. Yeah, get out. It belongs to the kingdom now. Go find another ship. When he goes and he sees the defect on, he says, he said, go. He lets him go through. So now here they're benefiting. Now he comes to the next story. The next incident was what of the ghulam, of the young boy. He said, وَأَمَّا الْغُلَامُ فَكَانَ أَبَوَاهُ مُؤْمِنَيْنِ. That the boy, his parents were 2 believers. فَخَشِينَا. He said, we feared أَن يُرْهِقُهُمَا طُغْيَانًا وَكُفْرًا. That this boy would overburden them by tughyan, by transgression, and by kufran, by disbelief. And as the scholars mentioned here, that this was either that he would do things in the future to harm them, transgressions that would harm them and that would force them into kufr, from iman to kufr, he would force them out of their deen, or that they would do things where they would be controlled by him and the love they have for him, that they would leave things and do things that would lead them eventually to kufr because the child was in charge. And a lot of times this happens even in our households now, where the child is in charge. And I talked about this in a recent podcast. We talked about the obese children and this epidemic that we're having. I mean, it might not be too much of an epidemic as they say, but I mean, there are a lot of fat kids out there, honestly. But so the thing is that some parents say, well, he doesn't eat anything else, So then he goes on a diet. He does intermittent fasting. It's up to him. If he doesn't want to eat something healthy, then he doesn't eat. You're in charge. It's your kid. You make the rules. You're the king of the house. He's not going to have donuts every day because he likes it, because he cries if he doesn't have it. You're the one in charge. But when the parent becomes weak, and this is the thing, this could be the thing here. He does certain things like this, and eventually it leads them astray. So you have to be careful. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described it as a fitna. And it could be a fitna in different ways. So it could have been any one of these ways where he drove them away from kufr, away from iman to kufr. Then he said, فَأَرَدْنَا أَن يُبْدِلَهُمَا رَبُّهُمَا خَيْرًا مِنْهُ زَكَاةً وَأَقْرَبَ رُحْمًا. So we intended that their Lord should give for them in return better, and that which is more pure, and that which is closer to mercy. When he said minhu zakatan, which is more pure, meaning in their deen, they give them another child, meaning he will give them something yubdilahuma, that he gives them in return. Instead, gives them a better child in return that will be more pure, meaning for their deen, wa aqrab ruhma, meaning for their family ties. Aqrab ruhma, meaning for their family ties. And here you see he said rabbuhuma, because and then Khidr is not in his hands. He's just doing his job as the prophet, following the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But who is the one who gives them the child? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It has nothing to do with Khidr. Then in the next verse, he explains what happened with the wall. He said, وَأَمَّا الْجِدَارُ, when it comes to the wall, as for the wall, فَكَانَ لِغُلَامَيْنِ يَتِيمَيْنِ فِي الْمَدِينَةِ, it belonged to two yatims, two orphans, in the Medina, in the city. Which city, once again, not made clear because that's not the what's important in the story. What's important in the story is what happens next. وَكَانَ تَحْتُهُ, and below that wall was what? كَنْزٌ لَهُمَا, a kanz, a treasure that belonged to them. وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا, and their father was salih, he was pious. Some of the scholars of Tafseer mention that it was from their grandfather, the seventh grandfather. And that shows you the barakah and blessings that the offspring get sometimes from the father, or even from the grandparents. Where the barakah sometimes, even if the family itself is maybe not that practicing or not that good, that the blessings come back to them. It comes back to them after that. And that's something interesting, but just popped in my head now. We were talking earlier with Sheikh Abu Osama over lunch, or before lunch, we had a meeting. And subhanAllah, we're talking about that. If you look at some of the people who become Muslims most, and that's something very interesting, so I never thought about it with Ayat here. If you look at, subhanAllah, like the Filipino communities here in the Gulf, thousands of them become Muslims. Also in America, the African Americans, a lot of them become Muslims. Something interesting about both of those groups, the Filipinos were all Muslims before. They were forced into Christianity. Their grandparents, before they were forced into Christianity by the Spaniards when they came there. Also, many of the African Americans were originally Muslims as well. Not all of them, but many of them. And they were taken by force and forced into slavery in America. So subhanAllah, something interesting is that perhaps the salah and the piety of the grandparents, because I told them, I said, we need to do some research on this. There's a reason, but now I just thought about it with Ayat, subhanAllah. Perhaps that could have something to do with it. The piety of the grandparents, it brings some of the grandparents, after several generations, it brings them back to the haqq and brings them back to the religion. Allah Akbar. That could be, Allah Akbar. But some scholars said that even though many of the narrations are from Sahaba and others who said that it was the seventh grandparent, that it's always better to keep it closer to the origin, which is the father himself, that he was pious. He had passed away, obviously, because how do you know he had passed away? Yatim, because they're yatim. So the closer thing to understand the ayah is directly, that it's directly the father, that he was pious. But even then we see, subhanAllah, he left two yatims by, and they might be struggling now, might be a bit difficult, but alhamdulillah, Allah protected them. How did He protect them? Because what happened with the wall? What was going to happen? The wall was about to what? Collapse. If it collapsed, and then the earth came exposed on the bottom, what's going to be found? The treasures. Masakin, they're small, they're young. Oh no, this actually falls under their part of the land, so we have to make sure they get it. People are going to come and steal it, take it. They're going to say, oh, it was mine, it was this. And they're young kids, they can't defend themselves. But now the wall is up. Maybe it starts to fall back again, starts to sink again. Now they're old, they're strong, and they find it themselves. Now, come try to take my treasure now. So Allah protected it until the time came when they'll find it in the future. And why? And what was the wisdom behind it? Why was this blessing given to them? كَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا, that their father was pious, alhamdulillah. This shows how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects the offspring of the salihin. And then He said, فَأَرَادَ رَبُّكَ, so your Lord wanted. Once again, look at the adab here. It has nothing to do with Him. It goes back to the Rabb subhanahu wa ta'ala who's protecting. It's all from the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It has nothing to do with me. أَيْ يَبْلُغَا أَشُدَّهُمَا, that they reached when they become older and stronger. Once we say against, they can defend themselves. وَيَسْتَخْرِجَا كَنْزُهُمَا, and then their treasure would be found. رَحْمَةً مِّن رَبِّكَ, as a rahmah, as a mercy from your Rabb. And then He says at the end, and pay attention to this, the end of the story, where He says, وَمَا فَعَلْتُهُ عَنْ أَمْرِي. And He said, I didn't do it out of my own wish or my own idea. Just pop in my head. I was let's go and take the plank off and kill a kid and build a wall. He said, "Ma fa'altu an amri." It wasn't something that I did out of my own intention, of my own will. He said, why? Because it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the command of Allah. And he said, ذَلِكَ تَأْوِيلٌ مَا لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ عَلَيْهِ صَبْرًا. He said, this is the interpretation of what you could not have been patient. Subhanallah. A beautiful story. Many benefits that we gain and we benefit from that story. And then in verse 83, we're gonna go a bit so we can finish, inshallah. There should be a break, I think. I don't know, I think the food, because we're late, so we're going to continue, inshallah. What time are you planning for the food to come?
We'll take a break and then continue again. And
When
then
is the food going to be?
9.
Oh, so we still have some. So maybe we're at 9, so we take a break now, or? Okay, I think it's because the other thing. So we'll take a quick coffee break. We want to do some push-ups, some jumping jacks. Inshallah, get back in the zone, inshallah. So 10 minutes, inshallah, or a little bit less. If you maybe let's do a 7-minute break, huh? And then we'll start with the story of Al Qarnayn, inshallah ta'ala. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala wa ba'd. We reached verse 83 from Surat Al Kahf, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts talking about the story of Dhul Qarnayn. And this story goes from verse 83 up to 98. And a bit of verse 99 as well. We've asked the brothers, inshallah, outside, inshallah, to please remain silent as they're getting their things, inshallah, coming in, jazakallah khair, so we can concentrate inside, jazakallah khair. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said at the beginning of the verse, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنْ ذِي الْقَرْنَيْنِ. And they ask you, Muhammad, about Dhul Qarnayn. As we mentioned in the hadith in the beginning, that they asked him, the Jews, about 3 things. The people of the Kahf and Al Qarnayn and the Ruh, the soul. Is the soul mentioned here in this? Mentioned in which surah? The surah before. Which surah is before? Isra. You find it there, inshallah. In one ayah, alhamdulillah. It said, ask you about Dhul Qarnayn. Allah said, قُلْ سَأَتْلُ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْهُ ذِكْرًا. Say, I will recite to you about him dhikr. Here this min means some of it. Some of his dhikr. And which dhikr, which information is Allah going to give us once again? What you need from the story, what's beneficial. And this is an important principle in life. You have many people, and sometimes it's difficult, that's the nature of the person. They like to tell you the entire story about everything that happened. But what's really important is what? And we were talking, my brother was saying, he said, until me and my wife, he said, we understood each other. He said, we always had problems. He said, because she likes to go into all the details and I want just 2 or 3 words. I want the result, the natija, that's it. She said, our son fell and got hurt. How is he? He said, hold on, let me tell you what happened. So I was doing this and this and this and this and this, and he was doing this and this and this, and then this and happened and this, and we went to the hospital. He said, is he okay or not? And he said, but let me finish the story. So she goes on and on again. At the end, is he okay? He said, alhamdulillah, I went to the hospital and I was okay. He said, that's all I need to know, alhamdulillah. I didn't need all the stories. But that's how some people are. But this story is teaching us, and there might be times where you want to go into detail, okay? And if your wife is like that, well, she likes to go in detail, you have to learn to be patient, you know? And that happened with me with my wife too. She loves detail. Bismillah, mashallah. So I have no choice but to what? I have to follow the rules. What's the first rule when she speaks? You have to make eye contact, and you have to put the phone down. And you start going, and she just looks at you like, huh? So then you have to listen to everything, all the detail. That's just the way it is. And our beloved Prophet ﷺ, he used to like to go to sleep early at night. Why? Why did he sleep early at night? Because he was praying for more than half of the night, ﷺ. Sometimes even more, sometimes a bit less. And he's praying all throughout the night. But he said he would stay awake even late at night, listening to Aisha radiallahu anha talk to him. Because that's her right to talk to him. And he would listen to her, ﷺ. So the point is, but in the story is teaching us is that be precise, get to the point. Sometimes no need to go into more details. Focus on what's important in the events around you. And that's a very important lesson that we take from this surah. So he said, Allah said he's going to tell us some of the story of Dhul Qarnayn. Dhul Qarnayn, is that his name? Is it a nickname? Is it something, the qarns he had on his head he used to wear, or something from his head itself that looked like what does the qarn mean in general? Like the horn, right? Or something, Allahu A'lam. Many things have been said in Tafseer, but there's nothing authentic to say exactly what it was. But I mean, that apparently, maybe something he had on his head, that was his nickname. That's what it seems, but Allah knows best, and what it was. Allah said about him, إِنَّا مَكَّنَّا لَهُ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَآتَيْنَاهُ مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ سَبَبًا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, مَكَّنَّاهُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. مَكَّنَّا, we established him upon the earth. And وَآتَيْنَاهُ, and we gave him مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ سَبَبًا, we gave him for everything away for everything. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that He gave him the ability and He gave him the means. And if you're going to be successful at anything you do in life, those are the two things you need. A lot of times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the ability but we don't find the means. Or He might give us the means but we don't want to do it. We don't have the ability to do it, or we don't want to do it. Or we have both of them but we don't want to do it at the end. So to have anything to be successful, you need to have the ability to do it, and you have to have the means to be able to do so. What was the sabab, this means that He gave him about everything? Allah knows best. It wasn't mentioned clearly in the Quran and Sunnah. However, if you look at the content of the verses, it's clear that he had with him the ability, as some of the scholars mentioned, to know the directions where he was going, because he traveled all around the earth. He was able to go there without getting lost. There were certain ways that Allah gave him the ability to know these ways. Just like you have now, like for example, trackers, who are able to tell how many people walk through here, how many this. They know it from the land. So he had that type of knowledge. Also, he had power, he had authority, he had a very strong army with him, with strong equipment. They were able, and they put fear in the hearts of others. They were able to accomplish so much. They were able to travel safely. All of those things are clear from the content of the ayat, that he had these type of things, these means that helped him be successful. There's other things he's going to have. Allah is going to mention, inshallah, we're going to understand it from the ayat as well. After that, Allah said, فَأَتْبَعَ السَّبَبَ. So he followed his way. He went on his way. And here, as the scholar said, that he went towards the west. How do we know he went towards the west? What comes in the next verse? حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغَ مَغْرِبَ الشَّمْس. Until he reached the place of the Maghrib, where the sun set in the west. So when he reached that place, وَجَدَهَا تَغْرُبُ فِي عَيْنٍ حَمِئَةٍ. He found that it was setting. What was setting? The sun was setting in a spring of dark mud. So the ayn is what? Ayn is, what does it mean? It has several meanings in Arabic, by the way. Huh? Right? But here, what does it mean? No, here, fi aynin. He said taghrubu, that it's setting. The sun is setting fi aynin, in a ayn. In his eyes? La. Here it means a spring. The spring or the water is also called an ayn. That's the importance of knowing the Arabic language, is that it has several types of different meanings. So the word ayn here, it's water or a spring. And what type of ayn is it? Hami'atin. Hamia is a dark mud. And this, al-hamia, for it to be this type of mud, or called hamia, there's three things it has to have with it. First of all, mud, what does it need? Two components. What are they? Water and dirt, and water or clay or sand or whatever. So you have dirt and you have the water, that makes it mud. But for it to be hamia, it needs a third ingredient, which is some impurities, meaning that it stinks. And وَجَدَهَا عِنْدَهَا قَوْمًا. He found a group of people there. Who were they? Where was it? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't give us the details. The scholars went into details, said perhaps it was near the Atlantic Ocean, or Bahr Qazwin, the Caspian Sea, and they went into different details to show where it might be. Even this, we can see this type of mud. But what's important is what we gain from the story, and not exactly where it was. But the scholars do try. I'm not going to mention. There's actually a lot of details they mentioned. Some of these places and things. And it's interesting. I'm not going to say it's not, but I didn't want to go and mention all of it. So because of the time, we want to finish the surah, and because that's not the main objective. And if you know it on the way, alhamdulillah, it's nice to know, it's beneficial, but it's not the objective of the surah. Obviously, otherwise Allah would have mentioned it to us, or the Prophet ﷺ in a hadith would have mentioned where that was, if it was that important. قُلْنَا يَا ذَا الْقَرْنَيْنِ. They said, يَا ذَا الْقَرْنَيْنِ. In the beginning of the surah, what did Allah say us? He said to us, He said, they ask you, an the al-qarnayn. An the al-qarnayn. Here, the al-qarnayn. So what's the difference? Why is it there the and this one's that? Once again, the importance of studying Nahu, Arabic grammar. Here he's calling. Manada. So you have, that's it. So you have what's called in Arabic grammar al-asma al-khamsa or al-asma al-sitta. Asma al-khamsa, from them is dhu. And when it comes, these asma in the Arabic language, if it's marfu', meaning where you have a dhamma usually in the Arabic grammar, then it would be Dhu mal, the possessor of mal, the one who's the owner of mal. There he is the possessor of the two qarns, of the two horns. And if it comes with a kasra, instead of a kasra, it has a ya on it. So an is from huruf al-jar, so it's an the. And if you call them, it becomes with nasb. And so here it comes ya the. That's why it's like that, because he's being called. Ya, harf al-munada, the letter of munada, which is the calling. So he's calling him, and that they're calling him, so they say ya the al-qarni. They said about him, obviously there's some issue with them. And they were people who were up to no good, doing some things that were wrong. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is calling here? قُلْنَا يَا ذَا الْقَرْنَيْنِ. Are they calling him, or who's calling him? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one calling out to Dhul Qarnayn. How do we know? You can see right away, and it's important paying attention to the way the ayat are coming in the text, because it shows you. Here they said imma an tu'adhib. Who's given the choice to punish them? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah says to him, Ya Dhul Qarnayn, imma an tu'adhiba. Either you punish them, wa imma an tattakhidha fihim husna, or else adopt among them a way of goodness. So now he has what? Two options: to punish them, or to what? To let it slide and to be merciful with them. What's he going to choose? Punish them. How can he punish them? He can execute them. He can beat them, whip them. He can make them POWs. What are POWs? Prisoner of war. Huh? He has different options he can do. And it's very important when you're a leader that you have those qualities. Where you're someone who's merciful, someone who's soft, but if it's time to be rough, you have to be rough. If you're someone who's a leader, a king or something like that, and you're all the time soft, what are people going to do? They're going to say, you know what, I'm going to be the king now. I want to sit on that throne. Move to the side, please. But if they know that if you mess about, you're going to be put in a place. People are going to be careful. When you have your colleagues around you, and you're the boss at work, you're the mudir, you're head of department, you have to be nice. You have to be merciful. You have to be understanding. But also things have limits. We know from the story, what? 3 strikes and you're out. We just learned it, huh? I gave you a verbal warning. I gave a written warning. Sorry, brother, but you're fired. Because now you're messing up our business. You're messing up our money. You're messing up our livelihood. So we can't mess with you. I gave you the chance. I was soft. But if I give you a 3rd chance, then you're going to want a 4th chance. And then everyone else sees me being soft with you, and it's going to mess up everything. So you know what? 30 days and you have to find a new job, brother. Yes. Sometimes you have to be tough. You're a mudir. You're someone who's responsible now. There's an amana you have in front of you. You're running a company. You're running this. So you have to have that strength at the same time, or you're not going to be successful. And any successful leader, at the time the Prophet ﷺ was very soft. And he would never become angry except for when? Aisha said that, radiallahu anha. If something haram was done, you could see it in his face. He was unhappy. And he wouldn't let it slide, alayhi salatu wasalam. Even when the munafiqeen came to him and pulled on his camel and said what they said, and they pulled on his, he let it slide with him. When it comes to the deen, don't mess with the deen. He was serious, alayhi salatu wasalam. So as a leader, you have to have that balance, and you have to know when to use it. I know a great scholar, all of us know him, I'm not going to mention his name obviously. He did a lot of great work for the ummah. One of my friends, he has a very high position in an Islamic bank. He's retired now. But he said he saw him, behind the set, on what's happening in different conferences and this. And his workers, he was screaming at them, and he would get upset, because he wants everything to be perfect. If you came with 100%, he won't accept it from you. It has to be 110. That's how it's his nature. But what happens in that situation? What did Allah tell us in the Quran? To the Prophet ﷺ, وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَنْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ, in Surat Al Imran. If someone has a harsh heart and you're harsh towards them, they're going to run away from the Sahaba. So this brother, who's also a big manager himself, he said he's going to lose all of his workers. And sure enough, they left him in the end. He said, yeah, but I have some sabr till some time, but come on, bro, I'm human too. He's screaming at me all the time. What is this? So this is what happens. So you have to have that balance. Sometimes what you need to be tough. If he always lets things slide and he wants 100%, what is he going to get from the people? Wallahi, you wouldn't get 50%. And that's how, unfortunately, as Muslims, that's how we work. If we let everything slide, if it can be done tomorrow, why do it today, right? We can do it next week then, right? And then if they also have the statement, they say, well, if someone else can do it, then why should I do it, you know? Right? But this is the sad reality. So, but if you're someone who's in charge, you let all that slide, it's going to be a mushkila. So here Allah is showing us that as a leader, no matter which level of leadership you're at, you have to have that balance. So what did he do? Look at now the hikmah, the wisdom of Dhul Qarnayn. By the way, is he a prophet or someone who's just salih? It hasn't been said. And confirmed. And I heard from one of the scholars speaking, but I haven't gone back to the hadith myself. So just so you know, when I do my research, and when I hear, I always like to go back and make sure myself. Go back to the sources. So I heard one of the scholars speaking, he mentioned a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ was asked, and he said he didn't know himself ﷺ if he was a prophet or not. Could have been maybe, but obviously he was someone from the Salihin, that's clear. So if that hadith is authentic, then khalas, obviously that solves the problem right there. If the Prophet ﷺ wasn't sure, then obviously there's no way we or any of our great scholars could have been sure as well. So his ruling that he passed with this group, Dhul Qarnayn, he said, قَالَ أَمَّا مَنْ ظَلَمَ. This is the first group. He said, for those who were wrong, meaning they were oppressors, they transgressed the boundaries, ظَلَمَ, is the word dhul means. He said, فَسَوْفَ نُعَذِّبُهُ. He said that I will punish him. And the word adhab, what does this mean? It's severe. It's not going to be a light punishment. It's going to be a tough punishment. Then he said, ثُمَّ يُرَدُّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِ. And then he will be returned to his Lord. فَيُعَذِّبُهُ عَذَابًا نُكْرًا. And he will punish him a terrible punishment. Nukra, as we know from earlier, it's a strong word. So he's going to say, I'm going to severely punish him in this world now, because he's a zalim, he's an oppressor, he's a transgressor. And this is what he deserves. He gets what he deserves. And then Allah is going to give him this even worse in the hereafter. And this shows that obviously when it comes to those who are the transgressors, that this is the greatest form of justice. When these oppressors, they are punished in this life and then to be punished again by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hereafter. And then in the next verse, he talks about the second group, the second category. And this shows you the justice of the ruler, because you can't pass the same ruling on everyone. And maybe some people weren't involved, some people were. So you have to be fair, you have to be just and look who was the zalim, who was not involved. There could be salihin from them, pious ones. So he said, وَأَمَّا مَنْ آمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا. But for the ones who have believed, آمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا, and they've done righteous deeds, فَلَهُ جَزَاءً الْحُسْنَى. That he will have the جزاء الحسنى, which is paradise, Jannah. وَسَنَقُولُ لَهُ مِنْ أَمْرِنَا يُسْرًا. And we will speak to him from our command, from our amr, with yusra, with ease. We're going to be easy. We're going to let things slide. We're going to be nice with him. And things are going to be easy and good for him, inshallah. And this proves to us that he was a pious king. Why is this? Because he ruled according to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to be established on the earth, with that balance. This is what, because when we come to what true Islam is and true establishment of Islam is within ourselves and upon the earth, and you talk about rahmah, brother, rahmah. Yeah, it's rahmah. But sometimes rahmah can be being harsh as well. With your kids, sometimes you might be a bit tough. But what is that? Is it a form of rahmah? So now we saw one of the girls the other day, may Allah protect her. She was climbing up there. And we caught her back. Maybe her father or mother walks up to her at the end and grabs the arm. Because she got a bit close then. Oh, grab that hard. I said, rahmah. What if she went over a bit harder? She should have been dead. So now that grab was a rahmah grab, right? It was a tough grab, you know. And she went, whoa, she realized I can't be on the banister like that. And so she paid attention now. Not saying I don't want to say it to the parents. I don't know if they're still here or not. There was just the point that if there's something like that happens, a parent might go and grab. But my objective is, hey, pay attention. Because if you go a little bit higher, you can die. There could be death on the other side of that. So me grabbing you and putting you back rough now is rahmah with you. Sometimes you punish your child. And it's important for you guys to know as well, the children. Maybe you get in trouble. Maybe your parents do something to you. Like, oh, you're so mean, huh? This also is rahmah in a lot of the cases. If it's done justly, because it's done for their own benefit. So you have to have that balance, and that's what Allah wants us to establish in ourselves and then on the earth, inshallah ta'ala. Then Allah said in verse 89, ثُمَّ أَتْبَى سَبَبًا. He went another way. But here, so it's to the mashriq, to the east. حتى إذا بلغ مطلع الشمس. Now he's reached the place where the sun rises. وجدها تطلع على قوم. He's found that it was rising, the sun, rising upon a qawm, upon people, لم نجعل لهم من دونها سترا, that they didn't have against the sun, any type of sitra, any type of shield. The scholars of Tafseer said that this means that they didn't have any houses, there wasn't like trees and places where they could hide from the sun, and even themselves didn't have clothes, they didn't have shoes, they were just under the sun directly. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in verse 91, in verse 91, كَذَلِكَ وَقَدْ أَحَطْنَا بِمَا لَدَيْهِ خُبْرًا. Thus we have been encompassed of full knowledge of the knowledge that he had and what he was doing. Allah was well acquainted and knew everything that he was doing. Here, if you look at these two ayats, there's no detail mentioned. Now, how many scenarios do we have in the story of Dhul Qarnayn? 3 as well. With the story of Musa and Khidr, 3, and also here 3. So 3 things. He came to the first group, and now here's what? The second group. Allah didn't give us any details, just told him this how they were. But as some of the scholars of Tafsir mentioned, most likely what happened here, someone who's a just leader, he found people in this situation. What do you think he did? Did houses for them. What do these people need? Masakin. And the sun is right over top of them, they have no house. Maybe they don't know, they're ignorant, jahil, they don't know how to build houses, it wasn't taught to them. They were born like this, they said, we just have to suffer under the sun, what can we do? So he built them shelter, built them houses, maybe taught them some things. So this now, the scholars, they abstracted this from it, knowing who he was, that's probably most likely what he did, because he's going to establish justice upon earth. So that's what he did to help them out by building houses and teach them other things. Maybe he taught them how to do some other things, agriculture, Allahu Alam, but he taught them things that they would need to be able to survive in that environment and to make it easier for them. ثُمَّ أَتْبَعَ السَّبَبَ. Then he continued in following another way. حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغَ بَيْنَ السَّدَّيْنِ, until he reached the Saddain, and meaning between the 2 mountains. وَجَدَ مِن دُونِهِمَا, that he found beside them قَوْمًا. Meaning what? We said that how many times? 3rd time. What does the qawm mean? People or group. People. He found the qawm لا يكادون يفقهون قولا. They could hardly understand his speech. The scholars talked about this. What does this mean? That maybe they weren't the most intelligent people, meaning you have to speak to them. Just like some people, when you speak normally in this tone, they don't get it. You have to kind of slow down. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Some people like that. It's time to speak to them. They just don't get it quickly, But other people say they didn't have really a language. They had like a weird language, or they weren't speaking one of the main languages. Because they say most likely having this strong army with him, part of it is going to be translators, the ones who speak the languages of the lands that he's traveling to. So they've been to all these other people and they have someone to translate for them, some easy way to communicate. But here for some reason this group, either they don't get it quickly or their language is so weird that they're not able. But eventually they were able to understand, because Allah said clearly, لا يكادون, which means what? They could barely, or they could hardly, يفقهون, understand. So they could understand, but it was very difficult. So now this is not like the other meetings where it was clear between them. Now they're having trouble understanding, but they get it. So they said to him, قالوا يا ذا القرنين. They said, يا ذا القرنين إن يأجوج ومأجوج, that indeed the يأجوج and مأجوج مفسدون في الأرض, that they are corruptors in the land that we live in. So this means the Ya'juj and Ma'juj, before they were what? They were free, roaming the earth. So they're corruptors upon the earth, meaning they would come into them and they would raid their villages and their cities, and they would steal from them, and all kinds of corruption and ifsad upon the earth. So they asked him, what we need from you, فَهَلْ نَجْعَلْ لَكَ خَرْجًا. They said, can we assign for you a pay? We'll give you some money. We're going to pay you something. We're going to give you something in return, and we're going to pay you to do what for us? عَلَى أَن تَجْعَلْ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَهُمْ سَدًّا, that you will make between us and between them a barrier. Make a barrier, a sadd. Make like a wall between us and them so they can't reach us. And we're going to give you in return for this what? We're going to pay you. We're not just going to say you come to us, you're somebody who's pious, but we're going to pay you in return. You're going to get paid for it. What was the response of Dhul Qarnayn? He said, قال ما مكنني فيه ربي خير. He said, what my Lord has established for me from wealth, from power, from authority, he said it's khair, it's sufficient, it's better than what you're going to give me. I mean, I don't need your money. And something interesting here, right away you say, okay, because he said he has his own money, he has his own ability, he has his own means, he doesn't need what they have, which is correct. But also he's what? He's someone who's very smart in his politics and how he deals as a ruler, as a politician. So he understands who are these people. They're not the most brightest, or it's just difficult to communicate with them anyways. So if he were to take the money, which he could, what are they going to expect in return? Because what did they say? They said, can you make for us نَجْعَلْ لَكَ خَرْجًا? We'll make for you this money that we're going to give you in return. And you give us in return, أَن تَجْعَلْ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَهُمْ سَدًّا, that you make this barrier between us and them. So who's going to do the work in this scenario? Dhul Qarnayn and his soldiers, his group. But someone who's smart is going to do what? Like Donald Trump. And they'll build the wall. Huh? Astaghfirullah. It still didn't get built though, did it? Huh? He said, they're going to pay for it. And they're going to build it. Huh? Astaghfirullah. Huh? So here, this is being intelligent in politics. That, I have my own money, I need you, but I'm going to help you, but I need from you something else. Your money, leave it, I don't need it. What I need from you is فَأَعِينُونِي بِقُوَّةٍ. Assist me. أعينوني, assist me. بِقُوَّةٍ, with strength. And in return, if you give me this quwwah, this strength, and what does he mean by this strength? Manpower is one of the things. Manpower is one of the things. We want to build a wall, and it's going to be a great wall. Huh? Want to build a wall. What do we need to build the wall? We need manpower, that's one thing, that's correct. There's three things that we need. Make it easy for you. We need a material, and we need, what else? Think about, we're building Ikhwan. We have materials, tools, and then we need tools. This is what we need. So we need people, manpower, we need tools, and we need materials. And he said, if you give me this, أَجْعَلْ بَيْنَكُمْ وَبَيْنَهُمْ. What did they ask for? Go back, rewind. What did they ask for? Saddan. They said, well, you build for us a wall. And he said to them, what my Rabbi gave me is khair. I don't need what you guys have from the money, but assist me, أعينوني, with quwwah, with strength, manpower, tools and money, and materials. أجعل بينكم وبينهم, not سد, ردما. Pay attention to the Quran. Look, and this also, once again, this shows you how clever he was. He said, I will put between them, it's translated as a dam, but the redm is actually, it's different because the sed is built how? Up. Meaning like walls, just like this. This would be like a sed, like the barrier we have here. But the difference with the redm is it's built with blocks up in a different way. So it's going to be even stronger. So it's much more advanced and much more stronger than what they wanted. They wanted just like a fence type wall. Well, this is going to be something with proper built up. Okay? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he said in the next verse, Atuni zubur al-hadid, to bring for me the pieces of iron. Some of them said they were blocks, some of them said they were sheets, but it seems with the radma would be more considered would be the blocks of iron. And you can imagine, that shows, as the scholars mentioned, because sometimes we think how advanced we are now and all this. This is a serious, any engineers here? Because this is a serious project that's about to go down, and this is back in the days. So it shows you that it was a serious, building project that was about to happen. And he says to them, bring me these huge blocks of hadid, of iron. حَتَّى إِذَا سَاوَى بَيْنَ الصَّدَفَيْنِ, until it leveled between the two mountain walls. He said to them, قَالَ انفُخُوا. He told them to what? To blow. What does this mean, to blow? The whole village comes. Is that what we're talking about? He said, أعوني بقوة, From the quwa, we said from the tools. So they have bellows, they have something, things that they would use. Maybe people were standing to blow on it, so air would come. And then he said, حَتَّى إِذَا جَعْلَهُ نَارًا, until now, خلاص, it's become the hot, fire, like fire. And then it says after that, قَالَ آتُونِي أُفْرِغُ عَلَيْهِ قِطْرًا. So now bring me and I will pour the qitra on top of it. The qitr, what is it? The molten copper, the melted copper. And what's that going to do now with it? It's going to make it stick, so it's going to be super secure. And you're going to be even safer. So he gave them the radma, did it with hadid, and made it, sealed it at the end with copper, so they could never get it off. And that's why Allah said in the next verse, فَمَا اسْتَطَاعُوا أَيَظْهَرُوهُ, that they were not able to what? Pass over it. وَمَا اسْتَطَاعُوا لَهُ نَقْبًا, and they couldn't even make, mastata'u, they weren't able to make any naqban, meaning what? Penetration. They couldn't open it in any way. And then he said, and this goes back again to the salihin. It goes back to the pious people. It goes back to those who automatically, when there's any success, what does he say? قَالَ هَذَا رَحْمَةٌ مِنْ رَبِّي. This is a rahmah, a blessing from my Rabb, from my Lord. SubhanAllah. Even though he was the one who came with the idea, did all this, this amazing building project, didn't come say, me, my party, my government, me and my soldiers, me and this, us, me, myself, I, like people do nowadays. SubhanAllah, right away. It's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, this is from the rahmah of my Rabb. And then, what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us? فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي جَعَلَهُ دَكَّةً. خلاص. It's a rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning for those people only, for all of mankind. Because what would happen even on earth today if they were there? They're going to mufsiduna, they're going to corrupt upon the earth. When it comes to the end of time, they're going to corrupt again. So it's a rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're trapped behind this wall and they can't get out. Behind this rhythm, they're trapped, they can't get out. And he said, this is a rahmah, but فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي جَعَلَهُ دَكَّةً. But when the promise of my Lord comes, He will make it dakka, meaning what? Level it. It will be destroyed. خلاص. وَكَانَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي حَقًّا. And the wa'ad, the promise of my Lord is haqq, it's truth. What is the wa'ad of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What does this mean? Yawm al-Qiyamah, right before Yawm al-Qiyamah, as we know from the detailed hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, that they will what? Come out. They will come out and that they will corrupt upon earth. The Prophet ﷺ, he was sleeping in the house of Zainab radiallahu anha, and the hadith is reported in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. And he woke up, ﷺ, in a frightened state, and he said, La ilaha illallah. He said, woe to the Arabs because of an evil which has drawn near. And as the scholar said, the Arabs meaning in general, they were the general source of Islam in the beginning, but it means all of mankind, all of the ummah in general, not just the Arabs themselves. He said, woe to the Arabs because of an evil which has drawn near. He said, today an opening the size, and he did like this between his thumb and index finger, alayhi salatu wasalam. He said that a hole this size has opened in what was built from this radma for the Ya'juj and Ma'juj to stay safe. So it's starting to crack, starting to open, and that's from the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At the end, all of them will come out. And that's why Allah said in verse 99, وَتَرَكْنَاهُ بَعْضَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَمُوجُ فِي بَعْضٍ. And we will leave them on that day. What day? Yawm al-Qiyamah. Or it's come right before Yawm al-Qiyamah. Because after Yawm al-Qiyamah, you know, it's stages until the Qiyamah itself comes. But there's certain things that happen, and all of them will happen very quick, the major signs. And from obviously, the major signs is the Ya'juj and Ma'juj. يَمُوجُ فِي بَعْضٍ, meaning that they will be going over one another. Understanding, the scholars described it in different ways. And what seems apparent is going to be like a chaotic and a rush out, like a stampede getting out. You can imagine all these centuries being trapped, and all of a sudden it's opened. Now they're just going to be running. And from their nature is that they're what? Mufsiduna fil ard. They're corrupters upon the earth. Now they've been trapped and they can't corrupt. They can just corrupt between themselves. So that generation after generation they're being born, and it's in their blood, in their DNA, and now they're just going to what? Run and corrupt upon the earth. There's an interesting hadith in Sahih Muslim. It's rather long, and we don't have time to mention it. But if you go back to Sahih Muslim, and it's hadith 2937, it tells you a lot of the details. If you type it in on sunnah.com, you'll find it, inshallah ta'ala. And in Sahih Muslim 2937, you'll find it, inshallah. It's the chapter 54, book 54, hadith 136 in that chapter. I mean, from the number you can find it there, inshallah. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ. And then it will be blown into the sur. What is the sur? Into what? Into the horn, like the trumpet-looking horn that will be blown into, as the Prophet ﷺ described it. And how many blows will there be? Two main. One of them were the people who are on earth will be like the sa'iqah, where all of them will eventually die. And then the next one will be for what? The second one? The qiyamah, to send the people forth from their graves. And that's what Allah is talking about here. Because He said, فَجَمَعْنَاهُمْ جَمْعًا. And then we will assemble them in one assembly. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, so how many times now, if we reflect on this, has Allah been talking to us about Yawm al-Qiyamah? Good deeds, stay away from fitna. But the issue of Yawm al-Qiyamah and being judged keeps coming back. What is this now programming in our minds as we're reading this every Friday? You see, this is your cave. You go in it once a week to learn how to deal with these fitnas, to learn how to deal with prioritizing and benefiting from your time in life and all of these things. But all of a sudden, Yawm al-Qiyamah, what's going to happen on Yawm al-Qiyamah, some of the punishments, it pops up. A little bit about Jannah and what the people of Jannah will get. All of this is trying to get you to focus on, I want to go there and I don't want to go there. This is what it's why it keeps coming back, subhanAllah. It's amazing. وَعَرَضْنَا جَهَنَّمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْكَافِرِينَ عَرْضًا. And we will present the hellfire on the day of judgment. To the kafirina, ardan means as a display. It's going to be displayed. Ardan means what? A display. So the Jahannam is going to be put on display, meaning put in front of them. And then the Prophet ﷺ described how the Jahannam is going to come in the hadith in Sahih Muslim. He said that on Yawm al-Qiyamah, hell will be brought with 70,000 bridles. They're pulling it. Each bridle is pulled by 70,000 angels. What does that mean? How huge Jahannam is. But what is the objective of it being put on display in front of them? What is the objective? That's it. The kuffar will know now, and it comes in the next verse. Who is this Jahannam prepared for? Look in the verse 100, what does it say? It says, وَعَرَضْنَا جَهَنَّمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ for who? The عَرَضْنَا, meaning we will present it on display. عَرْضًا for who? Al-Kafirin, for the disbelievers. Who are these disbelievers? The next verse. الَّذِينَ كَانَتْ أَعْيُنُهُمْ فِي غِطَاءٍ ذِكْرِي. The ones who their eyes were covered and removed from my remembrance. وَكَانُوا لَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ سَمْعًا. And they were not able to hear. I mean, the scholars talk not able to hear, meaning that Allah put something between them so that they hear it, meaning physically, but it's not, it doesn't benefit them. Or meaning that they don't want to hear, and both of them could be correct. And that's what I mentioned before. Many of them, we don't want to hear. We just want to party and have fun and enjoy ourselves. Hum kal'an'am bal hum adall, as Allah said. They're like the livestock. In fact, they're more astray, subhanAllah. This is the reality. They don't want to hear. So these people, the Jahannam is going to be put on display for them. To show them now, what you were lying about, what you rejected, what you refused to listen to, the proofs that came to you. You refused to look at them, you refused to listen to them. And now you're seeing it put on display where you're going to go. What you deserve, you're going to see it put on display in front of you. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the next verse, أَفَحَسِبَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَن يَتَّخِذُوا عِبَادِي مِن دُونِ أَوْلِيَاءَ. Pay attention to these meanings now, because now we're coming to the end of the surah. So there's going to be some relation between the beginning of the surah a lot of the times and between the end of the surah. Also there's going to be the closing message that Allah wants us to pay attention to now. So the issue of Jahannam has come back. Yawm al-Qiyamah, some of the things are going to happen. Allah once again, أَفَحَسِبَ. It came also early in the surah. What does this mean? Do you think? Do not think? Allah wants us to what? Reflect. Islam is not a religion of just, remote control, do, don't, on, off. No, Allah wants you to reflect. Use your brain. Use the logic. Move the fitrah, the natural inclination that Allah has put inside of your hearts. أَفَحَسِبَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Do the disbelievers actually think أَيَتَّخِذُوا عِبَادِي, that they're going to take my ibadi, my servants, my creation, min duni, other than me, as awliya? They're going to take other than me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, other than Allah? Do they actually think they're going to be able to commit shirk? Take other than me as or someone who's going to defend them in this life and in the hereafter? And Allah says, إِنَّا أَعْتَدْنَا نُزُلًا, that indeed we have prepared for the kafirina nuzula. We have prepared for the kafirina. Indeed, we have prepared for the kafirina, for the kuffar, for the disbelievers. We have prepared for the nuzula. That's why the Quran is amazing. What did Allah mention about the other thing? We're talking about muttaqiya. Huh? What does it mean in general? In the verses the other day, we talked about muttaqiya. What does it mean? To lean, to relax, to chill out. And Allah was talking about in Jahannam. But we said, what is meant by that? That they're not going to be that the only type of relaxation is what they're going to get when they're drinking that water that's going to rip open their faces and tear out their intestines. This is their relaxation. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned nuzula. What is nuzula in Arabic language? It's different meanings. Either the place they abode where your guests would stay, or the food you give them as soon as they come. Like nowadays, and we see here in Kuwait as an example, nuzulan, as soon as you come in, what do they do for you as your gift? Tamar, qahwa, dates and coffee right away. Huh? This is the nuzula. This is for the dayf. This is what the dayf gets right away. So this is what they're going to get as soon as they get. They're going to get either some food as soon as they get in Jahannam, or a place where they're going to arrive, as a place where they're going to be staying. What type of place is it going to be? This is now to get them to think, yeah, you're going to get something. But remember what it's going to be. Just like we mentioned in the ayat that's earlier. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains who these people are in more detail. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the next verse, and pay attention, it's very important, in verse 103, قُلْ هَلْ نُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِالْأَخْسَرِينَ أَعْمَالًا. It's a very powerful verse, subhanAllah. And the beauty of the Quran, once again, it comes in a question. Like asking, Allah's asking. You're reading the ayah. Allah said, say, shall we inform you of the akhsarina a'mala? The akhsarin, what does it mean? And not just losers, akhsar, which is higher level, the greatest losers. The greatest losers. The greatest losers in what? A'malan, in their deeds. Shall I not show you who they are? Right away, what do you say? What do you say when you hear it? Bala ya Rabbi, of course, ya Allah, show me who they are. Why? Because I don't want to be from them. Because they're the akhsarina, they're the biggest losers. When it comes to their deeds, and I want to make sure that my deeds are going to benefit me yawm al-qiyamah, they're not going to harm me. Allah said, الَّذِينَ ضَلَّ سَعْيُهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Ya Allah, may Allah protect us. He said, they are those whose sa'i, their effort. That's why the word sa'i, what does it mean in Hajj? You're making that strong effort, back and forth, back and forth. The sa'i of life, the sa'i that you made in life, fil hayat ad-dunya, in this world, all the efforts that you made. But it's akhsar, you lost it all. Why? And who are these people? Not just any pay attention to the Quranic verse, subhanAllah, how deep it is. وَهُمْ يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ يُحْسِنُونَ صُنْعًا. And they think they are doing well in work. And this is the scary part of the ayah. Because it's not people who are clearly, shayateen and they're, corrupting upon earth. Even though some of them might tell you, and as Allah told us in Surat Al Baqarah, they have the same mentality where shaitans may be, إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُصْلِحُونَ, that indeed we're reformers. Allah says, verily they're the mufsidun, but they don't know, subhanAllah. So here, someone who's working, making all of this effort in his entire life, and they think that they're doing something good. Some Christian who goes and refuses to accept the truth, and he's living in a village somewhere, in a jungle, to help poor people, to try to call them to battle the falsehood, and then he comes yawm al-qiyamah. And all of the different kuffar who have done good things, but it comes Yawm al-Qiyamah and it's all lost for them. And also it falls into this category, even the people of bid'ah as well. Even also when that's talking about the kuffar, as you can see in the verse before and the verse that comes after. But nonetheless, even the ibrah, what we take from it, the lesson is even the people of bid'ah, because we know from the sunnah of our beloved Prophet ﷺ that on Yawm al-Qiyamah, people will come and you'll see them, they look like, mashallah, Muslimun, they look like they're people who are following the deen. So they come to join the Prophet ﷺ. What happens? The malaika will come and stop them. They come with whips. Push them back. The Prophet ﷺ, what's his description in the Quran? Rahmatan lil alameen. Mercy to mankind. Right away, what's going to happen? Just like with the story of Musa, he stepped in because it's his nature to make him. The Prophet is going to see his mercy, ﷺ. He's going to see my ummah. He steps in, ummati, ummati. Oh, let them come, let them come. They look like they're from me. What does the angel say? لا تدري ما أحدثوا بعدك. You don't know what they invented after you. Here the Prophet said once again when it comes to the haram, what did we say earlier? He said, سُحْقًا سُحْقًا لمن أحدث بعدي. Let them go, let them go. The ones who invented after me. No good in them. Subhanallah. So the same thing, these people of bid'ah who strive night and day to do all of these things. And they think that they're doing sunnah, they think they're doing well in their work. Subhanallah. But the reality is that they'll fall into that group Yawm al-Qiyamah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Imagine, subhanallah. You spend your entire life. That's why I say once you have a clear vision, it's going to come even later, you're going to understand it. And once again, he said the conditions for the a'mal to be accepted, what are they? Two conditions. It's not rocket science, ikhwan. We have two conditions. The first thing is that we make sure between us and Allah subhanahu that we do it only for Allah. But then we go back and we look, is it from the sunnah? Is it confirmed or not? So people who add things to the original all the time, maybe some of them have ikhlas. It's possible. But is it in accordance to the sunnah or not? It's very easy. We say, well, our sheikh said this, and we found this from our elders and all of this. Bismillah. Where's the hadith? Any dalil, any evidence? We don't follow because we don't want to be from that group Yawm al-Qiyamah. May Allah protect us. The food is ready. So what do you guys want to do? I think we should finish. What do you guys think? Let's finish, then we'll have something we'll go. We're already at 105. We went good, mashallah. Sometimes when you get into it, mashallah, Allah blessed us. We're able to. Just went on his way. Alhamdulillah, opened up for us, mashallah. We followed the way and we reached to an end, alhamdulillah. May Allah put barakah in it. And I didn't think, I thought we really struggled. Like after 10, I thought the guy the other night, he was there at 9:30, like, on time, telling us to get out, mashallah, indirectly, and may Allah bless him. But alhamdulillah, we're going to finish good, inshallah. Allah then says, أولئك الذين كفروا بآيات ربهم ولقائه. Those are the ones who kafaru, they disbelieved. بآيات ربهم, with the verses of their Rabb, ولقائه, and his meeting. His meeting when? يوم القيامة. They're going to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like all of us will. And when it says to make disbelief in his ayat, what's meant here could be the Quran, the verses of the Quran. It also could be what? His signs and his creation as well. All of that falls into that, and both of them are correct. فَحَبِطَتْ أَعْمَالُهُم. So the first thing, what's going to happen to them? That their deeds will become worthless. فَلَا نُقِيمْ لَهُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَزْنًا. And we're not assigned to their actions, يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ, any waznan, any importance. It's worthless. And then ذَلِكَ جَزَاؤُهُم. That their recompense, what they deserve, their jaza, what they deserve for what they did, for denying, for rejecting that they would meet Allah, the signs, the ayat of Allah, for denying that they would meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, denying that there would be a Yawm al-Qiyamah. Now here's the Jahannam put in front of them, and what's they're going to be their jaza, their reward? Jahannam. Jahannam is going to be their reward. Why? Bima kafaru. For what they denied. Bima kafaru. What they denied. And on top of that, what did they do? As Allah mentioned in the verses we studied the other day, وَاتَّخَذُوا آيَاتِ وَرُسُلِ هُزُوًا. وَاتَّخَذُوا, and they took ayati, my signs, my verses, وَرُسُلِ, and my messengers. Huzuwan. in ridicule, mocking at them, making fun of them. So what did they get in return? جزاؤهم جهنم. That's what they got. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He's adl, He's just. You get what you deserve. And then Allah gives us the glad tidings, alhamdulillah, after that's scary. Then Allah says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Once again, it's always the Quran, ya Quran. آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. And those who believe and do good deeds. Good in the heart, good in the actions. Good in the heart, good in the tongue, good in the actions. It all comes out. When you have a dirty mouth, you speak dirty words, it means inside you have to clean your heart. If your actions are weak or not proper, it means you have to clean your heart. Your iman has some issues. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. What do they get in return? Let's reverse a bit. What do you say? They say they had the kana lahum. What the one before? Jahannam. Here, كانت لهم جنات الفردوس نزلا. The word came back again. Nuzula, subhanAllah. And this is something interesting. Muttaka'a. It was also mentioned in both of them. Murtafaqa. In both of the verses it was mentioned murtafaqa. And for Jahannam and for Jannah, if you go back to it, murtafaqa. Which means muttaka'a means place to rest. Murtafaqa. Here also nuzula, subhanAllah. Allah wants you to compare between the two. That's what they're going to get for their nuzula and their Jahannam. That's what they get in Jahannam. For their murtaqa, that's what they get in Jannah, what they get in Jahannam. Here, the nuzulan, what do they get? Jannatul Firdaus. What is Jannatul Firdaus? It's the highest place in the Jannah. It's the middle of the Jannah and it's below the Arsh, the throne of Ar-Rahman subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the Prophet told us in the Hadith. The best level of the Jannah. That's why the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, if you ask Allah al-Jannah, ask Him which part of Jannah? Al-Firdaus. Seek for the highest level, they're in the best part of the Jannah. خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا. They will be there eternally. لَا يَبْغُونَ عَنْهَا حِوَلًا. That they will not desire from any transfer. They want to be where they are and relaxing. Alhamdulillah. That's where they want to be for eternity. And that's where they'll stay, inshallah ta'ala. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in verse 109, the verse before the end, for the last verse. And this is the beauty of the Quran, that the Quran, it takes you on journeys. It's not just like one chapter is about one subject. You go many places in one chapter itself. It's amazing. So after the Jahannam, then talking about the Jannah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ لَوْ كَانَ الْبَحْرُ مِدَادًا لِكَلِمَاتِ رَبِّي. Say if the sea were ink written with the kalimat, the words of my Rabb. لنفد البحر قبل أن تنفد لنفد البحر قبل أن تنفد كلمات ربي. That the sea would be exhausted before it would be finished, before the words of my Lord would be finished. ولو جئنا بمثله مددا. ولو جئنا بمثله مددا. And even if we were to bring what does it mean? Like it, another sea, like that one full of ink, also it would finish before the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would finish. And this shows us the greatness of the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you were to reflect, and this from the tadabbur, what is this reminding us of again? What is the Quran? It's the words, the kalam of Allah. Allah is showing us here how powerful the words of Allah are. And what is the beginning of the surah talking about? The Quran. What comes throughout? We said our safety net we talked about yesterday. Throughout the Quran. Also here, the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the Quran. It shows you the greatness of the kalimat and how strong and how powerful they are. And that's how powerful the Quran is. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala finishes this amazing surah to say, O Muhammad, قُل. Say, O Muhammad, إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ. Say that I am a human, a man, just like you. And this is one of the objectives. Even in the Bible, the same thing comes about Isa alayhi salam. It's all back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The prophets, Khidr, what did he tell? Back to Allah. هَذَا مِنْ رَحْمِ رَبِّي ذُو الْقَرْنِينَ. That's all of the pious and the prophets. It's all to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what Allah wants us. And He gives us these great people as examples in front of us, but it's not to worship them. It's for them to guide us to Him. Say that I am bashir, I am human just like you. Prophet is just like us, alayhi salatu wasalam, in his human sense. And that shows us the one who said he was created from light. And if he stood, there was no shadow, and all this nonsense they come with. SubhanAllah. Allah is telling us here. Prophet ﷺ, what did he say in the end? He said, "Innama ana abd." He said, I'm a servant. That's all I am. Look at this. The Prophet ﷺ, and he shows you how great, how humble he is. And that's what really increases our love for him. Not the fact that he had light and had no shadow. Look at this. And he's the greatest man to ever walk the face of the earth. No one better. No one more beloved to the creator of the heavens and earth than Muhammad ﷺ. But yet, he tells us, do not over-exaggerate in praising me as the Christians over-exaggerate in praising the son of Mary. He said, "Innama ana abdun." Verily, I'm a servant. I'm a slave. But that's the pride of the Muslim, subhanAllah. Anyway, slavery, alhamdulillah. We're slaves, alhamdulillah. Some non-Muslims, they find it difficult when you say we're slave, what it means. Or say, whoa, hey. Yeah, we're slaves for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, exactly. And we're proud of that. He said, "Innama ana abdun." فَقُلْ عَبْدُ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولُهُ sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I am the slave. So say the slave of Allah and His messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So here, Allah says the same meaning. أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ يُوحَى إِلَيْهِ. But the difference between me and you, يُوحَى إِلَيْهِ, that the revelation comes to me. And that's why I'm at a higher level than you. But nonetheless, when it comes to the human form, I'm like you. What is it? What is the revelation that comes to me? Like it came to all of the prophets, the same message. أَنَّمَا إِلَهُكُمْ وَاحِدٌ. That indeed your Lord, your God, your Ilah is one. La ilaha illallah, Tawheed. This is the message of all of the prophets. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا. We've sent to every nation a Rasul, a messenger. Why? أَنِ اعْبُدُ اللَّهِ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتِ. To worship Allah as one and stay away from anything and everything that's falsely worshipped with Allah, no matter what it is. And then he said, subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ. That whoever has raja, hope for the liqa of his Lord. What does this mean? That you hope that you're going to be successful. Hope that Allah is going to accept from you. You hope that Allah is going to forgive you and He's going to enter you into the Jannah, inshallah. This is the hope you have from this liqa. We hope that we're going to pass this liqa, this meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's going to be pleased with us. He's going to forgive us, and then alhamdulillah, inshallah, ya Rabb, we're going to enter into the Jannah. Whoever has this raja, man kana yarju. Man kana yarju liqa rabbihi. So what does he need to do? فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا. So he does good deeds. وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا. And he doesn't join any partners with Allah in his worship. Tawheed, la ilaha illallah. This ayah is focused on Tawheed. So the surah starts with the Quran and the importance of the Quran and being thankful for the Quran. And that's one of the most powerful thing we have to keep us safe and to be a source of guidance for us is the Quran. And the most powerful thing that's going to keep us firm on the Iman is having strong what? And pure Tawheed. Once your Tawheed is wishy-washy, then it's easy for you to go astray. But the ones who have the strong Tawheed, the pure belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and don't join any partners with Him and don't turn to any other than Him, those are the ones who are going to be successful, and those are the ones who are going to be able to stay firm when time of fitna comes. What makes you not be oppressive if you have power? Where does it come back to? To your Tawheed, to your Iman. Your raja, yarju liqa. Remember, I can be oppressive, I can get over on these people. I can steal their money, I can tax them, I can use them as servants for me, I can be abusive because I'm the king, I have the power. But you know what? فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ. I better be careful. I want to be successful. Allah just talked about Jahannam in these last verses. I don't want to be there. So you know what? I better be salih. I better be good. What's going to keep me firm when it comes to the knowledge? If I become a great scholar, and then people will praise you everywhere you go, people taking photos with you. It's fitna, man. Huh? Every time you go, selfie with the Sheikh. Huh? None of you took selfies with me. I'm not that important, huh? We've been hanging out for some time with each other, inshallah. There were some brothers who want to take selfies. Now they're like, okay, I can't take a selfie. That's okay, inshallah. We can do it. There's a fitness, subhanAllah. What keeps you firm is the tawheed, la ilaha illallah. Your iman. Your iman with Allah and with the hereafter, with the akhirah. I'm not going to waste this for something from the dunya, for fame, for all of this, taking advantage. What keeps you firm if you, on your deen, it's your tawheed. All of these fitness that come. The fitna of wealth. Why don't I become mutakabbir? Because who gave it to me? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm an abd, I'm a servant. Look at the wording. It's the beauty of the wording. Ana abd. I'm a servant, I'm a slave. That's what I am. So I belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And everything I have belongs to Allah. So inshallah ta'ala, alhamdulillah, through the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we finished. I was sure we could finish. There was some doubt. I thought maybe I said it's going to be challenging, because especially there's different ways to give tafsir, and a lot of the times you'll find that many of the people who give tafsir, and I know I have a problem with that myself, is you find a topic or so you grab something and then it's just like boom, boom, you add like 4 or 5, 6 ayat to it, and 10 hadith to it, some of this, and then mashallah you've had a lecture on one ayah, which is very easy to do. So keeping it concise, and then if you go word for word as well, that's going to take some time. We did do some word for word, and today I focus a bit more on it, but I try to do it in a way that was a middle way, not too short, not too long. We just basically to get the meanings and get some of the points that we needed to focus on, some tarbiyah points and our da'wah points, these type of things that we need in our everyday life. We focused a bit more on them, alhamdulillah, and we pray that there was benefit. Inshallah, one thing I would recommend is that you come together, perhaps in small groups that you guys, you have friends you hang out with, brothers and sisters with the sisters, and review this. Go back to Quran.com. They have on the side the word for word. You can go through the word for word, and that will help you learn the Arabic, learn the meanings, and then get some of the tafsirs. Now we have tafsirs which are translated in English. We have the tafsir of Ibn Kathir, which is a great ni'mah, a great blessing that we have. Now the tafsir of Imam al-Sa'di has been translated as well. The brother showed me yesterday the tafsir of even Sheikh Abdur Raheem for Surat Al Kahf is translated and available. And it's amazing tafsir. I benefit a lot from myself, alhamdulillah. So alhamdulillah, we have these, we come back together, we read some of these tafsirs, go through it, even if it's just a couple ayat once a week. Maybe we get our Friday thing. It's the surah of Friday, so we say, let's do it, we're going to review it. And you're going to find, mashallah, it's going to open up different meanings, especially when you start understanding it more and go deeper. And may Allah help us, inshallah, to be from those who learn the Quran and understand the Quran, and the Quran becomes a source of hidayah for them in their lives, a source of nur, a source of light for them, and those who understand it and implement and act upon it. And Allah knows best. Allahu a'lam wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala Muhammad wa jazakumullahu khairan.